In the Vale of Arryn, Lord Petyr Baelish and Sansa Stark arrive safely at the Bloody Gate. Before entering, Petyr instructs Sansa to cover her distinctive auburn hair, as it is widely recognized as a Tully trait, which could betray her identity. He introduces her as his niece, Elaine, to avoid suspicion. Upon reaching the area itself, Sansa attempts to maintain her alias, but her aunt, Lysa Arryn, immediately dismisses the need for pretense in front of family. Lysa expresses deep sorrow over the way Sansa was treated in King's Landing, brushing aside Sansa's attempts to defend Tyrion's character. Robin Arryn is thrilled to see Petyr, and eagerly shows his cousin Sansa the Moon Door. Lysa, seemingly granting Robin some measure of independence, reminds him to keep Sansa's true identity a secret, and instructs him to lead her to her chambers. As soon as they leave, Lysa insists that she and Petyr get married immediately. She passionately declares that they had already shared a wedding night many years ago. Lysa then reveals a dark truth. She poisoned her former husband's wine and framed the Lannisters by writing to her sister Catelyn, all to prove her love for Petyr. Petyr attempts to dissuade her, but Lysa remains determined, informing him that a septon and witnesses are already waiting outside the main door. Overcome with excitement, Lysa proclaims that her screams of pleasure that night will be so loud they will echo across the narrow sea. Later that night, Sansa, exhausted and overwhelmed, struggles to sleep as Lysa attempts to fulfill that promise. The following day, Lysa invites Sansa to a private meal and offers her lemon cakes. Sansa, relieved to feel safe at last, indulges in the treat. However, Lysa's mood shifts when she begins to tell stories about Catelyn's tendency to overeat during her youth. Sansa becomes self-conscious, but Lysa assures her that it was just a playful remark and encourages her to continue eating, mentioning that Petyr had 3 crates of lemons brought from the Crown Lands specifically for Sansa's cakes. Suddenly, Lysa's tone shifts from warm affection to jealous rage. She demands to know why Petyr cares so much about Sansa, accusing him of treating her like one of his whores. Lysa then launches into a tirade about Catelyn's love for Sansa's uncle Brandon, and how Brandon nearly killed Petyr in a duel. Terrified, Sansa begins to cry and insists that she is still a virgin, assuring Lysa that Petyr sees her as nothing more than a foolish girl who knows nothing and cannot lie. Lysa immediately calms down and embraces Sansa, reassuring her that she believes her, and that since neither Tyrion nor Petyr had touched her, Sansa can proceed to marry Robin. Though Sansa is unsure how to process this revelation, one thing is clear. Her time in King's Landing has made her a master at masking her true feelings. Meanwhile, on the road to the Eyrie, Sandor Clegane and Arya Stark continue to exchange harsh words and physical blows. Clegane mocks Arya's water dancing, belittling Syrio Forel's reputation, and derisively stating that Syrio was nothing more than a fraud who was easily defeated by a lowly thug like Meryn Trant. In Meereen, from her new headquarters atop the Great Pyramid of Meereen, Daenerys receives word of Joffrey's death and Tommen's coronation. Though the news intrigues her, she grows irritated upon learning that Dario Naharis has seized Meereen's navy without her explicit orders. However, she contemplates the possibility of setting sail for Westeros and capturing King's Landing with her force of 8,000 unsullied and 2,000 second sons. Barristan Selmy remains optimistic, believing that once Daenerys crosses the narrow sea, the old noble families of Westeros will rally to her side, significantly increasing her strength. Jorah Mormont, however, is more cautious. While he agrees that 10,000 troops would likely be enough to take King's Landing from its weary defenders, he reminds Daenerys that the rest of the continent will pose an even greater challenge. Her advisors then bring more troubling news. The Wise Masters have regained power and re-enslaved every freedman in Yunkai. Although Astapor remains free for now, the council Daenerys installed has been overthrown by a butcher named Cleon, who has taken control. Frustrated, Daenerys dismisses everyone except Jorah, and reflects on how her plans seem to be unraveling. Jorah reassures her that she is the last Targaryen and the mother of dragons, but Daenerys insists that being a Targaryen is not enough. She must also be a ruler. She sorrowfully reflects that if she cannot maintain order in 3 cities, she has no hope of controlling the 7 kingdoms. Resolving to stay in Meereen, Daenerys declares that she will do what queens do: she will rule. In King's Landing, Tommen is crowned king of the 7 kingdoms, while Cersei extends what seems to be a peaceful gesture toward Margaery, though Margaery remains cautious. Cersei later speaks with Prince Oberyn, asking him for a favor. She hasn't seen her daughter, Myrcella, in over a year and requests that Oberyn deliver a gift, a ship, to Myrcella, as Cersei regrets missing her last name day. Meanwhile, Tywin confides in Cersei about their financial troubles with the Iron Bank of Bravos. He reveals that they owe an enormous sum, and that the gold mines of the Westerlands actually ran dry 3 years ago. Despite admitting that the Lannisters can trust no one but themselves, Tywin stresses the importance of securing the Tyrells' wealth and support. When Cersei suggests negotiating with a representative of the bank, Tywin dismisses the idea, warning that the bank is an unyielding institution that cannot be deceived or influenced. In the Riverlands, while traveling, Podrick becomes more of a burden than a help to Brienne. He struggles with handling his horse, and even sets fire to a rabbit they were cooking by accident. Frustrated, Brienne attempts to dismiss Podrick by releasing him from the vow he took as her squire, but he remains determined to stay by her side. Their destination is Castle Black, where Brienne believes Sansa might have sought refuge with her half-brother, Jon Snow. Curious about Podrick's past duties, Brienne questions him about his service to Tyrion. Podrick admits that his responsibilities mainly involved pouring wine and handling other trivial tasks. When Brienne asks if he ever engaged in combat, Podrick surprises her by recounting how he saved Tyrion during the Battle of the Blackwater by killing Esser Mandon Moore of the Kingsguard with a spear through the head. Impressed, Brienne shows him newfound respect and allows him to assist her in removing her armor. Beyond the wall, at Craster's Keep, Locke scouts the area for the Night's Watch party tasked with eliminating the traitors hiding there. During his reconnaissance, he discovers the hut where Bran Stark, Jojen, Mira, and Hodor are being held captive. When Locke reports back to Jon Snow and the others, he informs them that only 11 traitors are present, most of whom are drunk and unlikely to pose a serious threat. However, he deceives Jon by claiming that the hut where Bran and his companions are imprisoned only houses hounds, warning them to avoid it to prevent the dogs from alerting the enemy. Trusting Locke's report, Jon agrees and instructs the party to launch the attack at nightfall. That night, Qarl enters the prisoners' hut and attempts to assault Mira, but Jojen distracts him by revealing his gift of the sight and ominously predicting that Qarl will not survive the night. Just then, Rast bursts in to warn Qarl that the keep is under attack. Jon's party storms the defenses, swiftly engaging and cutting down their traitorous former brothers. Amid the chaos, Locke sneaks into the hut and tries to abduct Bran. However, Bran wargs into Hodor, forcing him to kill Locke. During the fighting, Bran catches sight of Jon and longs to reunite with him. However, Jojen reminds Bran that they must press on toward the three-eyed raven, and warns that Jon would try to stop them to protect Bran as his older brother. Despite the painful choice, Bran reluctantly decides to continue his journey, leaving Jon behind. The Night's Watch quickly overpower their enemies, and Jon faces Qarl in a fierce one-on-one duel. Qarl's underhanded tactics, honed during his criminal past, give him the advantage. Just as Qarl is about to deliver a fatal blow, Craster's wife Sissy stabs him from behind. As Qarl turns to retaliate, Jon seizes the moment, rising to his feet and driving Longclaw through the back of Qarl's skull, killing him instantly. After the battle, 4 brothers of the Night's Watch, including Locke, are found dead, though Locke's true motives remain undiscovered. All the traitors are accounted for except one, Rast, who flees into the forest in terror. He stumbles upon the cage where Ghost was held, and notices that it has been opened. Before he can react, Ghost lunges from the shadows and kills him. The direwolf then reunites with Jon, who is overjoyed to see his loyal companion again. Jon speaks with Craster's wives, warning them that Mance Rayder's army and even greater threats will soon arrive. He offers them safe passage south of the wall, but they decline, choosing instead to forge their own path. Before leaving for Castle Black, Jon orders Craster's Keep to be burned to the ground along with the bodies of the fallen. About Missandei, Daenerys encourages the Unsullied to choose their own names, but Grey Worm decides to keep his, as it was the name he bore when Daenerys freed him. Missandei is present when Daenerys meets with Marrow, Prendal na Gezin, and Dario Naharis. Marrow behaves offensively throughout the meeting, making inappropriate advances toward Missandei, including groping her and slapping her backside. Enraged by Marrow's behavior, Daenerys later orders that if the Unsullied have to fight the Second Sons, Marrow should be killed first. Later that night, as Daenerys bathes, she is impressed to learn that Missandei speaks at least 19 languages. Missandei modestly remarks that this is not so remarkable, since Daenerys herself mastered Dothraki within a year. Daenerys, slightly irked by the implication, switches to Dothraki to prove her fluency, only to have her pronunciation gently corrected by Missandei. Suddenly, an Unsullied enters with a knife pressed to Missandei's throat, warning them not to scream, He removes his helmet, revealing himself as Daario Naharis. Daario explains that he was sent to kill Daenerys on the orders of his captains, but he chose instead to kill them after they disagreed over her beauty. He releases Missandei and presents the severed heads of his former captains as proof of his loyalty.